Hello. Looking this evening at this album here from 1997. Didn't actually know it came out in 1997 until I just was doing a bit of reading earlier. Someone said, "What year do you think Crystal Method's album Vegas came out?" I probably would have originally said 99 and then maybe second guessed and said, "Oh, maybe 98." But I didn't realize it came out as early as 97. Which I know is not a big difference, 97, 98, 99, but in terms of music, a lot can happen with kind of music movements in those short spaces of times. So these guys were part of that late 90s, I guess it would be termed big beat genre. That when I think of big beat, I guess the first band I think of is the Chemical Brothers, but also Fatboy Slim's stuff around that time. The Prodigy. Um, yeah, those are the ones that I think. I mean, they're all British, aren't they? Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Prodigy, they're all British. But then I would also say this album by Crystal Method. And Crystal Method aren't British, they are American. Were there any other American big, big beat artists? See, I don't really know enough about, um, I guess, dance music. Well, if we think broadly electronic music, but then the more dance side of electronic music, I don't know very much at all, really. I kind of bits and pieces I like. There's a lot of dance music I can't stand, but I've kind of as I got older, I've come to appreciate more. But I'm more on the with electronic music. I'm more on the non-dance music end of the spectrum, um, which I don't. Yeah, see, I don't even know. It's such a massive, a massive. What are you going to call it? Grouping of music, saying electronic music. It encompasses so many things. But anyway, there was a couple of years in the late 90s, maybe even into the early 2000s, where big beat was kind of the primary, most popular part of mainstream dance music, electronic music. And yes, this album was one part of that movement. Um, I've, I guess, my first exposure to this, which will probably be the same for a lot of people, was their part of Trip Like I Do. Now, the version on this album isn't the one that most people are most familiar with, that they did with the guy from Filter, Richard Patrick, which was used in the Spawn movie soundtrack. And there was a video release for it, and it was got a lot of radio play in, at least in my country. I'm sure is the same in most countries around 1997. Um, I love that song. I think that really did the combination of electronic music and hard rock metal together really well. And even to this day, I still like that music. I remember when I was young, it got me like really pumped. That song. I have a specific memory of driving to my part-time job, and I had this absolute shit heap of a car, and it had a radio, but it was just like an AM FM, you know, you twiddled the knob to tune it to the station, and it was just always staticky and not didn't have very good sound regardless. And I have a memory of driving to work and blasting the shit out of that song. It was played on the radio through whatever like the 20-year-old speakers that were in stock in that car, and through the static, and it kind of energized me to go in and do a shitty 8-hour shift stacking shelves at a supermarket as a 16-year-old. Um, then the other songs that I got to know were, I probably heard Busy Child played on the radio, but the memory I do have is Keep Hope Alive used as a TV theme, an introduction theme song of a TV show was a drama. Can't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was the late 90s, called Third Watch. And what Third Watch was a an American TV drama that focused on the three branches of emergency services in New York. So the ambulance, paramedic, police, fire. And I don't know exactly what Third Watch means, but I remember on that show that was used as the title theme. I don't know what happened to Third Watch. Okay, here it says I'm looking at Third Watch. Okay. It started in September 1999. Okay, so I was right. And it ran through to 2005. So I never saw anything past the first season. But you don't remember who was in that? There was a female cop, and her husband was the actor who played Frank Zabotka in The Wire season 2. You know, the union boss at the ports. Whoever the actor who played that, it was the same guy who was the husband of the police woman in Third Watch. Interesting stuff. So yeah, my point is that I heard the music out and about, and like it was used in I think other things like some advertising and maybe other TV shows. Okay, hang on. I've got a bit of a write up here as I'm flicking through this. So it says Busy Child was on the soundtrack of Senseless and Lost in Space, and the movie Gone in 60 Seconds. Keep Hope Alive was featured in Replacement Killers, Dragon Ball Z, Lord Slug, and Third Watch, as I said. Vapor Trail was 3,000 Miles to Graceland. Now this is the one. This is one I do remember. Now is the time. Now what I notice is that the American version, there's a few different versions of this. The American version's only got 10 tracks. This one's got 11 tracks. And the track that the American version doesn't have, the US version, is Now is the Time. And Now is the Time, I remember from a video game, but I couldn't place the video game. A PlayStation game in the late 90s. And as soon as I heard it, like years ago, I was like, oh, this is from that game. And then when I was listening to this again recently, I was like, shit, what game was this? So I searched, and there's two games. It says it was on Gran Turismo 2, but also FIFA 98, the soccer game. I played both those games at some stage. I've got a feeling it was from FIFA 98 that I have the memories from it, because Gran Turismo 2 would have been much later for me. I didn't play that in the late 90s. I remember playing that kind of later when I was a bit older. But I definitely played FIFA in the late 90s. And so, yeah, that song there, Now's the Time. So what can I say about this? Having gone over just some of the history there of how I heard some of the things, this album has got a very distinctive sonic imprint in that it runs through all the songs to the point that it can feel a little bit samey. And what I mean by sonic imprint, I'm not trying to sound pretentious or anything, like I know anything about music past this basic stuff, but whatever instrumentation or synth patches or settings or drum machines they're using, they feature throughout all the songs without a lot of what do you want to call it? They haven't changed it a lot. So kind of one particular synth sound you'll hear come up again and again and again. Whereas I think other electronic acts, like if you think of that Prodigy album, Fat of the Land, that came out at a similar time to this, 1997, that album has a lot more range in sound in it. Each song has a very different identity on that album. And I guess part of that is there's a lot more vocals used, but if you compare it to this, the songs that have vocals, Coming Back is the main one with a vocal sample. And I don't actually think it's a sample. I think she's actually singing it. And that kind of gives that one its own feeling. And that song's a little bit darker as well. Trip Like I Do, this isn't the one with Richard Patrick in it. So this is just the instrumental. It's a lot longer. And that kind of blends into the other ones. Busy Child, yeah. I'm not trying to say it's a good song, but I'm just trying to think it doesn't really have anything super unique that sets it apart from the other tracks. Keep Hope Alive, I would say that one is a bit different, and I think that's why it was maybe used so much in media, because it kind of has a if you know that song, it's kind of got this not dreamy, kind of quite a driving feeling to it. When I mean driving, I mean like it's kind of pushing you, not as in driving in your car, but also a an urgency behind it. It has kind of this single synth sound that runs in the background, kind of high pitch thing, and that kind of gives it this kind of eerie feeling. Maybe not dreamy, but eerie. Not like spooky eerie, but just kind of like apprehensive, maybe. But then Vapor Trail, She's My Pusher, Jaded, again with High Roller and Cherry Twist, they all are quite similar. If you listen to them enough, of course you can pick them and say, oh, this one's different, that's got a different drum beat. I think Bad Stone is the one that's got a kind of an unadorned keyboard usage in it. It's not so processed and synth-like sounding. It sounds like kind of just like, a natural sounding keyboard. It's a good album. I like it a lot. I've liked it for over 20 years. I bought this new, not this copy, but I have owned this new about 2000, the year 2000 I bought it, which for me, back in the year 2000, I was not a big fan of electronic music, full stop. So for me to buy an electronic artist album was kind of a big thing. That mean that I had a particular like of it. So I think the only two I can think of, these guys and Prodigy. And then it wasn't until like, when did I really start liking electronic? I guess I like Daft Punk as well back then. Like Discovery was 2001. I don't know. It was later in the 2000s where I started, and then especially in the last 10 years, I really got into electronic music a lot more deeply. So I own this new, and you can see back here the price of whoever bought this wasn't me, $33.95. I've said before that was a pretty normal average price for a new CD back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which I've said before as well. That runs to about $60 New Zealand these days, which I guess is about $35 American nowadays. Which I don't know about America, but $60 in New Zealand, it's not a small amount of money. It's not, in some ways, it's not a lot of money as well, because everything's gone up in price. But it's also kind of expensive. Whatever happened to my original copy, I guess I sold it or something, or lost it, or got stolen. But I got this secondhand. I peeled off the secondhand, stuck it down here. Let's see, the fourth. I got this for $1, I guess. Probably about 2 years ago. So I was pretty happy to pick this up again, because this was on a list of things I was specifically looking for. I was probably even going to buy this new if I couldn't find it again secondhand. So I was happy to get it. These guys toured here late last year. And when I say these guys, it's not actually these guys, because it was a duo at the beginning, at the time of Vegas. The duo being Ken Jordan and Scott Kirkland. But I know in subsequent years, just push something and it's not loading. So I was about to sound professional, like I'm kind of saying this off the top of my head, but I just pushed something on Wikipedia and it's not like, here we go. In subsequent years, Ken Jordan has left the band and it's just a one-man band now. It's just Scott Kirkland. I don't know why he left, but it's a solo endeavor. And Scott Kirkland, toured here in Auckland. It would have been December last year, 2022. And I was really of two minds whether to go. I don't have two minds. I would have liked to have gone. Tickets weren't that expensive. They were playing quite a small venue, as you'd expect. 2023. I don't think the Crystal Method are going to be filling up huge arenas. I was working the night that they came, and also I don't know. There was a few reasons why I decided not to go, but I didn't go. And, I'm sure I will kind of regret that one day. But, you can't see everyone who you want to see, can you? You've got limited funds and limited time and all the rest of it. Don't know why they called it Vegas. Um, I actually have a feeling they're from Vegas. Maybe they're both from Las Vegas, and that might be the reason why they called it Vegas. Oh yes, formed in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the early '90s. Well, there we go. So, homage to their home city. Very late '90s. What do you call that? Graphic design, stylistic choices. And I can't even say exactly why, but surely if you're looking at that, you might agree with me that that just screams 1999, even though this is from 1997. Maybe they're ahead of their time. Um, that time, yeah, it's a I kind of mentioned in the other video I did the other night, something I was saying about nostalgia, and nostalgia comes up a lot when I make these, when I talk about music, because a lot of the music I listen to, or at least, actually that's not true. A lot of the music I listen to is much newer stuff, but a lot of the CDs I buy are, older, because I'm getting secondhand stuff. You're not finding brand new stuff secondhand. Typically, it's stuff that are 10, 20, at least 20 years old. And so a lot of stuff I'm getting is from my youth, and you can't help but kind of get hits of nostalgia. And I was listening to this earlier, and it was, yeah, a very nostalgic record, but a different kind of nostalgia. There's that kind of warm nostalgia, I guess. Things from your childhood or particular kind of songs that have. And I wouldn't say this has got bad memories or anything associated with it, but it's got a kind of a darker nostalgia. And maybe not, yeah, I don't mean dark in a bad way, but it just has, I think it's a dark atmosphere album. It really has the feeling of like a nightclub, which I guess is the idea. Um, is there much else I can really say about this album? I like the blue, the shade, the tone of blue. The condition is okay-ish. If this was in a shop and they were putting a sticker to rate it, I'd say there's excellent, near new, very good, okay. I'd say this is good. And I'm talking about the condition of the CD, not the music. I'd say the music is very good. Some songs great. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Enough rambling for one evening. Thank you for watching.